end of the workshop's presentation. Questions will be allowed. Public comment will not be allowed. If you wish to ask a question, please fill out a comment card with your question and hand the card to a deputy. Your participation is welcomed and appreciated. I know we're going to start off with our policy review, but I wanted to, and then we can do our board business, but I wanted to go ahead and address right off the top a situation that we have taken, well, it has been taken care of now, but I just wanted to let other board members know. One of our board members tried to go to a school recently, and I just wanted to just put it out there for all of us so that everybody knows, staff, all of us included, that board members are allowed on campus. It is, I guess, a privilege if we call ahead of time and say, hey, I'm coming, I want to stop by or whatever, pick a date, a time, whatever, but I just want the board to know also that it's just not necessary. You don't have to per state statute. And if you want to go with an escort, you can. If you do not want to have an escort, you do not have to either per state statute. I just, as board chair, as the district, just ask that we be mindful on testing days, going into classrooms and touring schools and being involved. I know a lot of campuses, they have quiet campuses, and some even have closed campuses to parents when that week happens. So I think that's all we need to really keep in mind about, but I just wanted to make sure that we emphasize that per state statute that we as a board, any board member is allowed on campus with or without an escort, and you are not limited to what you want to see. You're not limited to access. You have full access. So is there any questions about that?
No, I would hope we'd be aware of that, but I think it's just, we know it's courtesy to try to reach out to the principal and make sure we're not interfering within the test days. So.
Correct.
Well, to be honest, one time I was driving by Tynes Elementary and I called the principal and she was welcome to have me right then. It was on the first day of school. Nobody had stopped by. So to be honest, for the most part, I think we are very courteous. You know, we don't have anybody storming the building.
Right.
Right. And I just wanted to put it out there. I mean, I know I always call, I always email back and forth and stuff. Just me in particular, but if there's ever a day that I'm driving by and I'm like, you know what, I want to go see them play, or see the Greek Olympics, I don't know, and I want to stop by. I just wanted all the board members to know and be aware that you are allowed to do that if you want to, that nobody should stop you if that's what you want to do. And then also be aware that you're allowed on campus as long as we go through the procedures in the front where we check in, we go through Raptor, all of that, then you're free to go, essentially. So again, it's a courtesy. For the most part, we do that. I just wanted you to know your rights and know that you're allowed what you're allowed to do. So
I do have one question on that, and it came about because my son is playing ball at one of our schools. And there was concerns about having bus transportation, and so they were wondering who's level 2 screens that could help if needed. And anyway, roundabout, because of that, found out we as board members do not automatically have a level 2 clearance. So as far as going on campus, I think there will be limitations unless...
Nope. Department of Education, you are a board member. You are allowed to go on campus. You have 0 limitations per state statute. Does not matter.
Well, maybe as a board procedure, we ought to...
I don't want to limit a board member and state statute, because state statute is going to trump whatever we do. And I think that if we have a discussion, because I actually contacted the Department of Education just recently, just to confirm the ins and outs of all of this, asked a lot of questions. And we are, well, anyways, so when we scan, we should also have access to every door as well. So that's just a side note. But no, for clarification, I just don't want to limit anyone, God forbid, and then we just have a discussion that, hey, it is a courtesy that we do this, but it's not necessary. So if you ever want to stop by, you can't say, oh, well, you're breaking your board procedures. I don't want to limit anyone in particular, elected official, board member, however you want to view it. Per state statute, this is what it says. The Department of Education has backed us up on this very strongly. So I wanted to be clear that you are allowed to do this. Now, what we decide to do individually is how we handle it. And I think, like I said, for the most part, we've had the discussion of a courtesy call. But if you ever just want to stop by and be like, hey, I want to see what that renovation's doing over there or whatever, I mean, you should, I don't want any of us to be in violation of that. So.
Madam Chair, I want to kind of touch on what Ms. Gilhausen said. So recently, I'm working my way up to visiting 22 schools. And I can tell you there was some confusion. One time I was told that I wasn't allowed. I had to sit in the lobby until I was escorted. And I had made a prior appointment to be somewhere at 3:50 after school was dismissed to talk to any teachers. I just made myself available if they had any questions about policy. Another time a lady said, don't go in there, you can't go in there, there's students in the library. So there was just some confusion around, and I wasn't bothering anybody, I was just going to sit at a table. And so I do appreciate you checking on that. And because I was kind of feeling bad, I just left the classroom, you know?
I just wonder, and you probably do have your level too because you taught, but I'm just wondering if some of that confusion, we've had so much change around security and admittance into the building that I just kind of wonder if it would take a little bit off of everybody's, stress situation if we all had the level 2 clearance. And it, you know what I'm saying? At that point, it wouldn't be are they allowed, are they not allowed? Do you know what I mean?
Well, per state statute, we are allowed. And I was going to have do we want to read the state statute or?
I'm not saying I disagree with you. I'm just
No,
saying
I know. I just
procedurally for us
for everybody to hear. But yeah, I mean, if we want, it would.
We certainly do that and fingerprint all board members to ensure that. I think just as a kind of reminder, there's no doubt that that's what the state statute says, but as a common courtesy, we all agreed to that. In fact, we all signed the protocols which kind of outline that, so it's not like it's unprecedented work here. Everybody signed the document, everybody here except for Mr. Alvaro, who wasn't in office at that time. So unfortunate that the incident happened to you, but I feel like we've addressed the issue and we'll continue to address the issue. At our next principals meeting, we'll address the issue then. It'll give you a couple weeks for that to occur, the process involved. I do think there's heightened security around schools, and so pretty much what we even after Santa Claus when he showed up. So there is the need to do that. So I appreciate the board's patience as we work through those kinks.
And she's right. I can tell you the front desk, it's like they're letting you into Fort Knox. I mean, they are super serious about our kids. One lady was looking me up and down, and then when she realized what I was there for, she came to the media center and said, I apologize, I'm just so serious about my job, and I do not want to be the one to let somebody in. And I was kind of pleased with the fact that she was a bulldog in front of somebody's house,
and that's what I mean. I think it's more about that. I don't think they're trying to block your access as a board member.
They're
I think
scared,
it's more about
kinda.
there's such a level of who's allowed where and when and why.
Well, and that's why I think we're going to do the education to say, hey, all board members are allowed. And I wanted to let all of you know, again, we have a courtesy. We are redoing those procedures because we do have a new board member. And state statute trumps any procedure, any policy that we do. So I just, as a new board member here, as question, like even you with the level 2 and the Department of Education has said, if you want to go hang out under a portable and look at it, I don't know, whatever you want to do, you are allowed to do as a board member. So I just want to make sure that people know that as well, like the staff, the principals, the front desk, everybody, and Mr. Broski is doing a good job at, or will be doing a great job at informing everybody at the principals meeting. And I think Mr. Blocker is going to be present there too as well. So just letting people know that this is how it is going to be. And if you guys are comfortable getting level 2s, I mean, I'm okay with that. I don't think it's necessarily necessary, but I mean, we can.
Well, and I think overall, I mean, it's great that you brought it up, but we've got the master board coming up.
Yes.
And we can review and discuss and go over why
Yeah.
we want to change the procedure then, so,
The protocols, yeah.
yeah.
I just think, like you said, if you want unfettered access and the state statute allows that, I don't think we should be held to any different safety standard than everybody else. That if we're gonna be in a place where we could be alone with kids, we should be screened just like everybody else is.
Which I think some board members have, but I don't know.
I have it in several counties, but I don't have it here. And several other organizations, but I don't have it
So
here.
maybe we can, Miss Brenda, if you can tell us how we can do that, set it up, make sure all of
I
us.
thought we had a background check.
If you don't
on
mind.
that.
Thank you, I appreciate that, so that we can just check that box. And then moving on, I didn't want to take too much time on that, but I also just wanted everybody to know their rights and just to confirm that I did speak to the Department of Education, as well as our wonderful legal team over there, that we are, and just so everybody's aware, that we are to be treated exactly as that
Ms.
unlimited
Skipper,
access.
I just need to, Ms. Troutman, when I left the district and came back as a school board member, I went and I was fingerprinted. What was that for?
Me
Was it
too.
my
So
background
that's-
check, wasn't it?
I think you and I have level twos. I don't know that, I think that changed with us.
That should be Mr. Alvaro as well.
Correct. So we three might have them.
Yeah,
I
we've
don't
been
know that they
fingerprinted and
two
checked.
have.
I'll have Ms. Troutman look into who does
Yeah.
and who doesn't,
Yes,
and then move forward from there.
I remember, I went to UPS, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what I thought, because I mean, I'm at Orange Park, that's why I thought we were all level two. Anyways, moving on so that we don't take too much time on that, but I just, again, wanted to clear that up. Before we start with Neola, Ms. Hanson has asked for just a few minutes to show us that, I guess it relates to what we're about to go over. So I'm gonna let Ms. Hanson.
Ms. Bonnie's gonna pull up a couple of sites. I know at the last meeting, we had some great discussion about oversight of procedures. And what I wanted to show you was, in this particular section, because now I'm like really focused on Neola and why they do the things they do, so I did probably about 20-30 hours of research on it, and I went and looked at other districts, and this is the reason. So in this packet in front of you, in its original form, when it came from Neola, there are a bunch of strikeouts, and those are administrative procedures. And so I became like, I'm not having any bad casting on the district, but they were all crossed out, and I wanted to understand, was there a misunderstanding as to why they were crossed out, or the reason we didn't want them? So what I started to do was look at other districts. What district is this one?
This is Brevard.
Brevard County. So in here, when you have Neola's written administrative procedures into this, and you can correct me, please, anytime. My point is, I wanted to let the board know how that works on the board docs when we get to this point. So this is Brevard County, right?
Yes.
And so when you click up there, I discovered where it says policy manual at the top, the drop-down box. You're going to see underneath that other things. Policies, procedures, administrative procedures. When you click on these, the procedures that are referenced in our policy, so if you, I mean, they're all in here for Brevard, but if you went to the administrative procedures, you would, you would see a reflection of the policy. So the procedures match the policy. There's no doubt in anyone's mind, if a teacher wanted to know what the procedure was for that, it would be there. In the case of Brevard County, it appears to me when I went through this section that it's only the administrative procedures that were written by Neola, and there must be a reason that they do that, right? Maybe to help us make sure.
Do you have to click on the policy?
You can.
To see it.
This is what ours is going to look like if you haven't looked, by the way. Click on the 5,000 student section.
But that's what I mean, to show us the administrative
Yeah, so
procedures.
the administratives are in here. When I looked further, wait, could you go to the Leon County link for me, please? So Leon County, which is up in the Tallahassee area.
Oh,
No, it's not that. Could you?
that's gonna bring me into hours, unfortunately.
No, yeah, no. I sent a link. Can you go from my link?
That's what I'm doing.
I wasn't logged in.
Let me see if I can.
Well, I'll talk just for a minute. So much to my surprise, when you went into Leon County, every single procedure every single policy has their procedures. Their student code of conduct's in there, the procedures match in all areas. Can you just get to their policy page?
And if your link's not working, so I'm trying to.
It's probably because
find
you're
an
logged in, I
alternate.
wasn't logged in.
Yeah.
I just Googled Leon County School Board policy,
See if this works.
that one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so see where it says, I don't know why we're not in the board doc.
There's a link there, click boarddocs.com.
Okay, she's logged in. So with Leon County, every single thing that we talk about has procedures. You could click on the policy part 5000, and 5001, the first policy for homelessness, and you can go to that mirror procedure in 5001, whatever, and you can see the policy, and then you can see the procedures. This was what I was talking about at the last board meeting. Policy, the only way it has any meat at all, is if the procedures make sure, which the procedure part is Mr. Broski's responsibility. What I'm saying is, we all need to be clear, as part of, I believe what they mean by oversight, is we have the ability to not only see that procedure in effect supporting the policies that we write, everyone can see that we're all on the same sheet of music. So when we go through here, and we see administrative procedures crossed out, what I'm talking about is we're crossing out the meat of the policy. And I know that if I hadn't researched, I wouldn't have known that. And I wanted the board to know that there are ways for procedure for both half of us to work very closely together and do have a Loctite policy. And that's done through Loctite procedures, so. Okay, and it's possible, I don't know when we get that far, because I know we're real busy right now.
Comes after the policy
Yeah,
drafting.
but I just wanted you guys to know why the procedure was so pertinent, so.
So, can I just ask, will that, are we doing that portion, you said after?
Yes,
Okay.
it'll follow after the policies are in place.
Okay.
So the whole year to adopt the policy, because don't forget, it was this meeting, 1 year ago
Yes.
today, that we started the process, right? So it's taken us a year to get to this point. Really, you look at it by the time you form the contract, start the process. So please be, the plan would be that by June, we'd be totally done. We could then advertise and rescind the old policies all at one time, and all the new policies get adopted. At that point, the reason why a lot of it struck is because we would then develop the procedure part of that. It does come with a template from the old. We would have to do the same thing that we did for this year, we would have to do with that. So that would take a little bit of time to
No, I
do
understand.
that. I'm just pointing that out to you. And it'd be different, right? So
Can't be done all at once.
So for example, the procedure for book review is different in Clay County than other counties, and there's many other differences related to Clay, so you just can't take the template from the old one. You then have to work through the process for every single thing. That's a lot.
Okay. Any questions?
That was it.
comments?
I didn't know if we'd all seen that before, so.
No, that was helpful. I like how it's organized. That finished product, I think, will be much more easy to navigate. I know when I've been to FSBA trainings in the past and they wanted, like I've been to trainings on policy, anytime they went and pulled Clay's policies, our old policies, it was so hard to navigate and to look for specific things that they wanted to address in our
Yeah.
meetings, so. I
And
think
it's
this will be
searchable,
a-
right, in board docs?
Right.
When you're in those trainings, everybody
Yeah.
else is just searching the
Yes.
word, and we had to scroll, so
Yeah.
it's just a nicer system.
It's much, much more user-friendly, for sure.
Okay. All right, Neola stuff. We want to start, are we good with, since we're not doing so many sections, are we good going one by one? Is that what y'all want to do? Is that okay? Or did you have another plan?
Well, this is the third of our series of workshops. We did the bylaws in August, and we've done the HR policies in January. There are about 87 documents here. So I would suggest that we focus on whatever the board members have questions about or comments in the interest of time, and we can do it either way.
I think the majority of them, some of the ones that I was gonna ask about were like in the middle too, so.
Can we go by like chunks of pages, like ask the board, do you have any questions on pages 1 through, like I just went through 1 through 25 and I have none. Would that be okay, so we're not jumping back and
Sure.
forth?
Whatever.
Maybe 25 pages at a time if we have no questions? Does that sound good?
Alright, so let's do it that way then. So 1 through 25, does any board members have any questions?
I don't have any.
So,
Do you want to put it on the screen, or are you gonna? So, it's in board.
Sorry, I threw you off on me.
Policy project revised.
I don't want to make sure I'm in my own.
That'll take us up to 5130.
Withdrawal from school.
Yes, you want to do that, Mr. Superintendent, maybe just take it
Yeah,
up by
only,
chunks?
why don't we go 25 at a time, but then if it's an odd
Okay.
page, we'll just go to the next chunk. So I guess any questions on 1 through 25, which brings you up to policy 5130, withdrawal from school.
I do, but I'm trying to find the other policy that matches it. Oh, okay. So it would have to go on page 16, what I want to bring up, but it's on page 45. So I'll wait till we get to 45 and just remember 16, sorry.
Okay. You only have to wait a minute,
I know,
because we'll be right there.
We're not there.
sorry, okay. Anyone 1 through 25? All right, 25 through 50.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So let's start with 25. Anybody got question, or
Why don't we go by policy?
that's what I'm trying to do, but hold on. My papers are stuck together.
5130.
So do you have any controlled open enrollment? Anybody got questions on that? What about withdrawal from school?
No.
And then wireless communication, which I'm pretty sure a lot of us
Yes.
did. Okay. Ms. Gilhausen, would you like to lead?
Sure, page 32, under the heading high school only, skip down to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th break there, starting with during after-school activities. WCDs shall be powered completely off. My understanding was that after school, they're allowed to have their phones on and on them.
Yeah, the addition of the lines when directed, directly directed by the administrator or sponsor, so I think, I actually have that one highlighted,
Okay,
because we saw that as a team, we said, okay, that could be a problem,
yeah,
but we think there might be times where the sponsor might direct the students
Like at a play or
to
something?
do that kind of thing. Whereas, but if there's no direct, hey, you need to have your cell phone off, then they're allowed to do that after school, football game, or whatever.
okay,
That's kind of, so we kind of let that slide only because of that last part that says when directed by an administrative sponsor. But I thought the same thing as you.
yeah, do you feel like that's necessary, that we keep that in there? Because it seems confusing to me, and I feel like,
We can strike that sentence if the
Yeah.
board would like to strike that sentence. But that was the thought, would be like if you're at a play or someplace where you're trying to
to maintain a quiet, which I still feel like they have the ability to do
If you
that.
don't say any, if you're silent about it, then there's no clear direction about if they need to turn them off or
Yeah.
something.
Okay.
Like it might be a drama play or something, I don't know.
Could we maybe start with that instead of tagging it to the end, like maybe only when directed by the administrator or sponsor, students must have their phones off?
Or just when directed by the administrator or sponsor, comma,
Yeah, just putting maybe that at the front part,
so people see it.
yeah. Only
All
direct,
emphasize.
only if directed by, must they have their phones off?
Good catch.
So I don't want anybody to be overwhelmed by these notes that I have right here for this particular policy.
Well, we're not looking.
Um,
Ms. Hanson-
so-
Ms. Hanson, do you have anything else?
That was it from that policy.
Okay, go ahead.
So if you go to the same page, page 32, under high school only, after where it says WCDs is probably the fourth, I guess we'll call that a paragraph, as used in this policy are defined in bylaw 0100. And then in our redlined policy, option A was struck out, and I want to read it out loud to you, because I believe I know the intent of the board from our last conversations we've had about cell phones. While students may possess WCDs in school during non-instructional time, on school property, during after-school activities, extracurricular activities, and at school-related functions, they must be powered completely off. Not just placed in vibrate or silent mode and stored out of sight during school hours, during after-school activities, extracurricular activities, and on school buses or other board provided. Now, we know that we allow them after school from bell to bell to use their phones. But this first part is exactly what the board was talking about when we revamped this policy, was it last fall or before school started? When it says to be powered off completely, not placed in vibrate or silent mode, it's not supposed to be in their pocket, in their purse, on their desk. I know that this board was very, very passionate about the distraction of cell phones and student addictions and what it causes students mentally. They should be powered off. Brevard County does a first hour check. They hold the phones up when the principal announces it. They see them all powered off. They check the dress code and they watch them drop it in their backpacks. When I've been visiting high schools, this is a very, very inconsistent thing here in Clay County. Because state law says it can be held behind the teacher's desk, right? Powered off and put somewhere. I feel like we need to be very clear that we're trying to support state law while supporting our beliefs about cell phone as a board. And I can tell you that elementary schools and the junior highs are thrilled, absolutely thrilled. And I'm working on my way up to 22 schools talking to teachers, and every single teacher said, keep the cell phones out of our classrooms. They are thrilled with our policy. What I'm not thrilled about is the directive that they should be powered off and put away. And I don't know how you guys feel about that, because that's scratched out in this policy.
It's
So
there.
You want to add that back into where we power them off and put them away?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Where is it
Yeah.
powered off and put away? Did I miss it? Because I've got a lot of
I
markings.
think it's in the first section. Hold on.
I mean, I might have missed it, Ms. Gilhausen. I spent a lot of time on it last night. I don't know.
Under all students in B, it says students may not use WCD during instructional time, except when authorized by the teacher.
Right.
But it doesn't say the actual.
I'm sorry, I thought I did see that.
No, it's something I promised a whole bunch of teachers that I would talk to you all about. It's super important to them to have something very clear, so when they're doing this procedure, there's no, this policy, there's no doubt in their minds. And this is happening around the country, by the way. We kind of got ahead of it, but Brevard County is not having any issues at all. And it's helping them a great deal in the high schools. And I have to say, out at Clay Hill, Ms. Halter, when I go there, make sure the phones are off and in their backpacks, and they put the backpacks against the wall, much like they do testing. So I feel it's really important that we try to mirror Florida statute on this particular thing. And Brevard has other rules. Duval, they take the cell phones away. You know, I've done a lot of research on that too, and when we get to that point, we'll be able to maybe have that discussion. But first, the policy is so clear that on the first occurrence, parent contact, confiscation, and return the phone to the student at the end of the day is Duval's policy.
So Ms. Hanson.
A procedure, I mean, so-
Before we move on, real quick,
Yeah.
do we have consensus from the board to put A back into the policy? Where it has to be powered off in the backpack and put it away? Clark?
Yeah, that's fine. I think we recognize too, we've heard a lot where they put the case in the backpack and they still have their phone on them. You know, there's a lot of little issues. It's like, how do you attack it? So,
Member of Art tries to attack it first period. I think other districts do as well. And then it's much like testing. If the student doesn't turn it off, there are serious consequences for that. And they learn that pretty quickly, like to make sure it's powered off
but
during.
it is nice to hear from the principals that
Yeah,
they do not want them.
yeah, they don't.
And neither do the teachers. Like, even parents. I know that the district, before when we brought this up, they were like, you're gonna have a fight with the parents. And I have had so many people, and I'm talking about parents who allow their kids on their phones all the time. Teenagers come up to me and say, thank you. Because I know from the time that they're at school to the time that they go home, they're not on that device. So, people I thought that I would actually get pushback from. So I think we have full support on this. It's just how do we get there? How do we implement it? How do we become, how do we enforce it better? So, I have consensus here. Mr. Alvaro, do you have consensus for putting A back in?
Yes.
You have it with me. So if we can direct Neola to add A back into the policy for us, if you don't mind.
Now, all of A as it stands, the last part of it, I know Ms. Gilhausen was just talking about this. And most of our problems will be taken care of with procedures, and I understand that. But this is such a clear directive. At least teachers are like, if a parent calls, it's in their backpack, ma'am. Like, this is the support our teachers need, is this one little teeny piece.
Can I ask a clarifying question on this
Mhm.
regarding that? So that to option A then would change some of the pre-existing policy here under high school only. So that would
That's another thing.
That would be something, so
lunchtime.
if option A means that, if I'm reading it correctly, it would also, you would have to go back and students then would not have access to electronic devices during lunch break. Is that correct?
I think we should keep that for high
Yes,
school.
me too. The lunch
Okay,
break.
so the way it's written for option A, if I'm reading it, it has to be powered off during the school hours.
But our policy said at high school they could have it. It's another debate right here,
Let's get back.
So we just need to
We'll come
know
back
that
to
because
that.
if option A does revoke some other pieces of, just so that we know how to write it to present it
Well,
going forward.
I personally would like to do bell to bell, no cell phones, to be consistent, because you have kids walking around the hallway with them, thinking, because I'm not in class, I'm allowed to have my cell phone. I can have it during lunch, I can have it here, I can have it there, as long as I don't have it in class. And we know as a board, that's, which our disciplines have gone down tremendously, and I do think that this contributes to that. But that's where they film fights, that's where they, hey, can you meet me for your vape? Can you meet me here? Can you do this? Can you do that? So I personally, and I might be the lone wolf over here, I think bell to bell for consistency purposes.
And so I have to voice, I'm making these, it's kind of become quite painful for me to go to all these schools, right? Not the listening and meeting teacher part, but teachers time and time again tell me it's not the policy, it's not the high school cell phones at lunch, that's not the problem, right? They were looking for some meat directive, right? And I agree, in my hearts of heart, I would love them maybe to make it easier for them to keep them off all day and not be so tempting to turn it on and then make sure they turn it off after lunch. But I really believe maybe in the high school, I'm agreeing with you and disagreeing, which is so weird, it's at the same time, is I would like to try to honor what some of the teachers have told me, which is, it's not that policy that's the biggest problem. It's the meat that they need to be able to say, the policy states, put it in your backpack and turn it off. That would seem to be the part of the problem with the teachers, although I am in agreement with you. But I have to say that the high school teachers believe that the actual lunchtime part is not actually the problem. So I just wanted to say that on behalf of them, so.
And I'll just point out too, high schoolers a lot of times will use their phones for meal purchases at lunchtime, like checking my school box balances, like they have access to all of that. And I don't know, to me, the lunch break is the lunch break. I don't have a problem with them using it then. And when you talk about enforcement, like you said, during first period, if you do a check, then at the end of your lunch period, or when you come back in the fifth period class, everybody show me your phones off, goes back in the backpack, we get back on our way with whatever we're learning. But for their lunch break, I mean, I
But
don't.
are we gonna do that? That's the problem, because you go to high schools and bell rings, oh, I'm not in class, so here we go. You know what I mean? And
I have faith
They
that
just
we can.
disperse, you know, there's nobody like, hey, get off your phone, you're in the hallway. There's nobody enforcing that.
Yeah.
So
But I don't
I
think
just-
it's the lunchtime, that's the problem.
I just think that it's the, I know, I just think it's the inconsistency, and if you had consistency, they wouldn't, have the need or feel the need to pull it out and do all of these things.
Yeah.
That's just my.
Madam Chair, if I could, you know, one of the things that happens when you develop a policy is the procedure part is, you know, how you would implement that. And are there problems with implementing a proposed policy? That's why you notice that one of the things we do is painstakingly look at that. And so what I'm hearing from the board is power it off and put away. We can certainly do that, but I'd be remiss if I didn't advise the board that there is a sizable amount of parents that want to contact their students, you know, at various times. So that would be a departure from current practice. And so I'll just throw that
Yeah.
out there. You guys can do whatever you want, but I'll just put that out there. So the other part is, you're talking about consistency. There is consistency in enforcement. You got to remember, though, administrators at a school have a lot of things that they're responsible for. If you want this to be their sole purpose, we can do it with 100% fidelity. I'm not sure what people would learn the rest of the time, but we can do it with 100% fidelity. It would be like, I would liken it to driving to work today. I was on 17. I probably got passed by 10 speeders. I'm a middle lane driver, by the way. Middle laner. Okay, I'm not a left laner. So watching people go by, 10 people zooming 10 miles off. I'm not gonna call the sheriff and say, how about enforcement? How about a little bit of consistency? I'm sure if I did, and the sheriff then applied all of her resources to that, nobody would go a mile over the speed limit. But what else suffers as a result of the sheriff's intense focus on that? Remember, balance to it. I'll do whatever the board wants to do, but you gotta understand there's balance to it. And that's why we review all the policies and kind of look at it. So what I'm hearing from the board is, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that, because
Well,
the
can I
rest
just
of the
say one thing
operation
to
happened.
add on to what he just said, because I actually was prepared for you. I know you well enough now. And it's not a bad thing when you're talking about enforcement. So we have our policy in the parent part at the beginning of the year where parents approve the student code of conduct. Posters are on the walls, in the halls, at every school. Many schools make a cell phone announcement in the morning prior to school in their announcements. There are, as I've witnessed, posters up in classrooms. I've witnessed many teachers on their Google Slides of the day as the kids are walking in, says cell phones off and away. The first slide of the Bell Activity Daily in all high school classrooms have it on there. Parents are made aware from teachers in newsletters. Parents sign parent-student contracts in the beginning of the year. That policy is on there. This is almost the definition of insanity. We have told the kids every day since the beginning of the year, and they know, and the parents know. The problem is not when we put our foot down, it's going to stop. We have to be serious about this. There is no way all this should be occurring every single day at schools, in every single teacher's room, on the walls, people making announcements, and then the teachers still have to call the parent to write a technical referral, because this isn't a discipline referral, it's a cell phone referral. This is what's infuriating the teachers the most, right here. And I wasn't even going to bring it up till the procedure part. The point is, if we give them the meat, and we put our foot down, and the superintendent puts his foot down. People rise to the occasion. If not, we wouldn't be an A district. Kids and teachers rise to the occasion. I'm going to give you one example before I quit, because I'm very passionate about this when it comes to what's happening to teachers in the classroom. That fight should not be theirs. Nobody should have to tell 30 kids a day to take out their AirPods and put their phone away. No teacher should have distracted time from instruction, ever, for something that is like this. Other counties have successfully done this. Here's my example. Our new trash collection. I'm driving to work today. About a month ago, it was a disaster. There was stuff all over the ground, right? And these people, lids were open, my trash cans were too close together. It was a learning curve. It was a hard learning curve. These people stopped at everybody's trash can and wrote a note. Your trash can was not exactly 3 feet apart, right? And they hung that note on that trash can. Today I'm driving down, every trash can in Clay County, squared away. One guy wasn't, his lid was open. I'm laughing because they didn't pick up his trash. I am telling you that parents expect our kids to have uninterrupted instructional time. 85% of our kids are doing the right thing every single day. 15% are challenging and bucking the system, knowing they can get away with it because others are too busy, right? Teachers are frustrated. You call home, parents are frustrated. Well, so-and-so, all these people are letting their kids do it, blah, 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 blah. The entire thing is a complete dark mud puddle. Everybody's stepping in it, nobody wants to get rid of it. Everybody's stepping in it, nobody wants to get rid of it. If Clay County can help every single person close their lid and put their stupid trash cans 12 inches off the road in 4 weeks, we can do this. We are the adults in the room, and we need to help our teachers. And that's all I wanted to say.
So what I'm saying is, what you're saying is power it off and put away, and we can certainly do that. I'm just kind of pointing out the other side of the
But what about the
story.
lunchtime program?
You know.
Yeah, I'm personally fine. I'm not happy. I would rather them socialize at lunchtime and no child not socialize. You know, that's the one we want to help. But I understand the need now where we're dependent on these cell phones. So I'm fine with the high schoolers having it at lunchtime.
Don't they get like, to Ms. Gilhousen's point, don't they, if they don't have school bucks in their account, they get a free lunch for that day anyway, and then, you know, after school, they can make sure that would also be a great responsibility thing, like, oh, and put money in my account, so now I gotta eat a PB&J today, maybe tomorrow I'll remember. You know, I don't know, for me, it's consistency and it's kids talking to each other, because when you are isolated, when you don't have that person talking to each other, we've lost the art of communication. We've lost the, you know, we talk about mental health all the time. Like, it has consumed every aspect of every company, of every organization. We spend more money in mental health than when all we have to do is put this down and start having conversations with people. And really getting to know people and really getting, I mean, they help us in a lot of ways, but they also hurt us in so many ways. So, I don't know, I'm gonna say my piece, and whatever we decide to do, it is what it is, but I just want moms to know that I've fought for their kids, because some have psych issues. Some are upset because they take their time to jam out and be by themselves in the lunchroom, and to each his own. But I think that if we're going to combat more than just cell phone, that they should be talking to each other.
Well, and I would hope there would be a good balance at that high school level, that they're not on their phone during the entire lunchtime. The only reason the main reason that I would want them to continue to have it is when they do have to communicate with mom or dad or a sibling, or about a sibling, to pick them up. You know, whatever the scheduling is after school. I don't envision that they're on the cell phone the whole time during lunch. lunch. I would hope that
Yeah,
they're still
they're not, they like to
communicating
talk.
with others at their
I
table.
wanted to ask something. I spoke to several students from high school, and some of them are responsible kids. And they have a job after school, that they have sport after school, that so many things happen. Some of them spend all the time on the phone just looking at videos. But some other kids, they know the responsibilities, and they know they have things to do after, and they take that time from lunch to schedule appointments or tell them I'm gonna be late, I have to get out of school at this time. So I don't wanna be able to stop them from doing that.
I agree with that, and I've been in the high school lunchroom several times this year. They're talking to each other. I mean, it's not, I think it's a little bit different than maybe what we're imagining. These kids are pretty good at multitasking, and usually if they're looking at something on their phone, they're sharing it with a buddy. It's like it's a social thing. But to your point, they use their phones at that age to manage a lot more than just communication. Some kids are only using it for communication that's negative, and I would agree with you on that, but those kids can use negative communication sitting next to each other as well. I mean, I don't think you're gonna see an escalation in behavior problems as far as communication goes just around cell phones. I mean, I know where I work, I sit with my kids at lunch because I'm monitoring conversations while we're having lunch together. So like that inappropriate things can happen with or without a cell phone.
But
So-
it's kind of like feeding into but, okay, so
So with
before we
option-
move on, we have consensus to
Yeah.
leave it in lunch. And we have,
But with option A,
Consensus to
Ms.
put
Skipper,
A back in.
there's two boxes we don't want to check in option A.
Okay.
The boxes would be silence your phone during after-school activities, so you guys just discussed that, right?
Right.
We don't want to check that box. And on school buses or other board-provided vehicles, so we allow our students, we want to make sure that box is not checked, right?
For me, it's just bell to bell,
Right,
with the exception of lunchtime,
okay.
like
Yeah.
that.
At high school only,
High school only, yes.
okay.
So, do we have that, Viola?
Yes,
Do we
we do,
understand
yes.
what we want? Okay.
We will,
And that's only for high school, the cell phone for the lunch.
And there's one more thing here, you're talking about you don't want conflicting information in the policy. The very last line of the cell phone policy says students may use school phones to contact parents, guardians during the school day. So what we mean is this is probably really going to be a big transition for the school, is that they would be using, like we used to in the old days, the
Yeah.
teacher phone, or if it was something private, they could go to the nurse or.
I think that's put in there as a way to provide reassurance to parents that we're not going to
Okay.
sequester your student from ever contacting you.
All right,
But the proper way to do that would be to use the school phone to
okay,
call home. Or sometimes you have to use the cell phone under the direction of the teacher or administrator, because I'll tell you that if a student is sometimes involved in a discipline event, when you use the school phone to call home, nobody picks up.
yeah,
But when you use the student's cell phone, they pick up right away.
yeah.
Sometimes 15 seconds between one another.
So that's just working out that part of the policy, right, to make sure we get the best result.
Anything else on cell phones? Ms. Hanson, you good with that?
I'm good.
Okay. Any questions on attendance?
I do, and I promise you guys I only have 3 or 4 things in this whole packet.
Okay?
So if you had both copies in front of you as school board, I just don't understand why we have crossed out every single administrative procedure that is in here. So, in this unedited copy, if you don't have it right in front of you, there's some lengthy administrative procedures in the attendance policy. I imagine those procedures are meant, Neola could tell me better, to help us make sure we stay within Florida statute. So this particular statute is very, very specific about truancy and attendance. Attendance and truancy kind of go hand in hand. In your copy, 5200, page 35, 1, 2, 3 paragraphs down, says in addition, Educators have the responsibility to encourage regular attendance, maintain accurate attendance records, and follow reporting procedures prescribed by the superintendent. This is the second most talked about thing at schools with teachers. They believe, they're very concerned about their kids. In elementary school, teachers are like, oh yeah, I call home. They have maybe one class of kids all day, right? At the high school level, it becomes very precarious. Reporting procedures are not the same at every school. We're talking about teachers who have 125, 130 kids. We haven't assigned them, you're responsible for attendance. What I mean by that, in first period, that would give them 25 kids to track on a daily basis. But they actually can't track the kids in every class on a daily basis. So in high school, this part here about follow reporting procedures, and then we have a bunch of procedures that have been X'd out. I'm very concerned that, and I know for a fact that the way our procedures are right now with attendance is not really working with our teachers. Because in high school, when you have 125 or 130 kids, you're supposed to be tracking all these rules, 3 days absent in a 10-day period, blah, 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 excused versus unexcused, 9 days absent in a quarter, 10 unexcused absences before the end of the year. There's a whole bunch of rules. And at some schools, teachers are solely responsible for their kids. Like, you have to call home, you have to start the attendance referral. In some schools, some principals actually have much better directives for their teacher. They have certain people, if you have a concern about a student, they email the student's name, and there are people that work on that. Maybe that's an attendance team, I'm not quite sure. But there's, in so far, my visits, very little, I want to say, universal procedure that's happening effectively from across our schools, let's say across high school. And so I have concern that we're striking everything out in the policy. Does that make sense? When half the people, we should be able to just run reports, and I know we can, right? Teachers shouldn't have to be calling home for all these things, by the way, cell phones, attendance. Some teachers have less than 30 minutes of planning. I tell you, in elementary, 30 minutes of planning, you have to walk your kids to lunch, pick your kids up. They're getting 20 minutes of planning, trying to make copies. What I'm trying to figure out is it advantageous for us to be cutting out, like I said, the meat, where teachers can go in and look? That procedural, administrative procedure, not like what they're doing at the school level, but administrative procedures that help teachers understand exactly what their role is.
I have a quick question. I know when there's an unexcused absence, parents get a robocall. Your child was absent today. So is there not a trigger that, switches on the robocall for?
So the reason why there's
truant
those administrative procedures are taken out is because we have our own administrative procedures that we developed and worked with our attorneys to get to the point of truancy. There's a 3-tier system. There's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. That includes letters that are sent home. Of course, I always mess up the number of days, so Kelly's over here. There's three sets of letters that are sent home in order to be in compliance with the statute. Then there's an attendance team meeting at the school level. Then if the student still doesn't, of course, this whole time we're trying to remove barriers. Sometimes people are homeless, they're without transportation. There's all kinds of other stuff you're working on at the same time. But eventually, if students nod, or parents, at elementary level, it's a parental issue, right? Because kids don't have the option of driving to school or getting to school. When they reach our tier 2, then it gets turned over to the district level. Then eventually, tier 3 would be going to truancy court. So there's a whole procedure involved in that. I think that teachers contacting parents for students that are absent is a critical part, because many times as soon as you engage the parent and you say, hey, your child's been absent 3 days, is there something wrong? Can I help you with something? Hey, he doesn't understand this. Can you give him help? Is there tutoring after school? Is there, the teacher is the front line of what happens with a student, and so being involved in the process of talking to parents about their child's attendance is critical to the process, and
So with your explanation then, why can't we have these superintendents shall develop administrative procedures that? Why can't we have that spelled out here like this? Because what you just said is your administrative procedures.
Well,
I mean,
you could say that the superintendent will have administrative procedures. I wouldn't copy Neola's.
no, I didn't, I said, why don't you just put yours here then?
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
I'm
I was
asking
gonna
you,
ask, can we put
because it's
your
a new
procedures
policy.
here?
Because we're gonna do that in the administrative procedure
Okay.
section.
So that's where we'll
Yeah.
add that, in the admin section.
What is the purpose of it here? What was the purpose intended here from Neola?
Frankly, it's just a question of judgment, it can be either place. These are strictly procedural steps, and they could, I don't think they rise the level of needing to be in the policy. They should be written down somewhere, and should have them, and there's a place for them in administrative procedure.
Okay, so we can, so my question is gonna be like, I wanna know the attendance procedures. I will then be able to go online, admin procedures,
Yeah.
and I'll be able to see them. So even though they're not here, they'll still be there because there'll be procedures.
Yes.
Okay, for every policy.
But can
that
it
we-
say see administrative procedures then, so people who aren't familiar with what I just showed you will know where they can go look at them?
So what if we did something like at the very beginning, because you're gonna have to write that on every policy just about, go
Well,
see the
there's-
admin
yeah.
procedures. So maybe at the, somewhere,
But we can find a way to notate that.
yeah, so that they
There
know,
is a-
because you're gonna have to write that on every.
If you remember, there's a policy in the HR section about administrative procedures, and we could put there that the associated procedures for each policy are located as such and such. If that'd be helpful.
Yeah, I think the point is sometimes, I mean, you're talking about a teacher who has a 30-minute planning, who now is down to 20 minutes, who doesn't always have time to search and look and do and figure it out. So if they knew, which I mean, that could be part of the training. Yeah, like, hey, this is, okay, perfect. That way they know, because what's more important than calling a parent at home or me trying to figure out a procedure that I don't have time to search for, so.
And so the last thing is, if you guys go to page 36, Part B,
What's the heading on that?
it's just B, attendance, page 36.
Under excused absences, is that?
It would be the first B, second paragraph.
Oh, okay.
Do you see it? Says teachers shall record absences each period of the school day and report absence excused and unexcused as required by the school. Mr. Broski's right. I wouldn't call home about attendance, I'd be calling home about missing work. What I'm saying is these two things are separate. If you're a high school teacher and you have all level 1 students and a high absentee rate, I'm telling you right now, with a full load of level 1 and ESE kids, when you have the kids who are most truant, and you have 100 of them, this isn't gonna happen.
I think this
So-
is just taking attendance.
It is, but here you would need to say, this is under the attendance policy, right? Teachers shall record absentees each period. We do that of the report absence, excused, unexcused, as required by the school. Every school has different ways they do this. There is no consistency at all, and I'm telling you, in the high school, Mr. Broski, you were my principal. It was, I had 5 regular ed classes full of kids most teachers couldn't handle. Are you telling me it might have been my duty to call about absences? My priority is to help kids pass and learn to read. My calls were not about absences, and I'm telling you, this is a sad thing I'm about to tell you guys.
But this isn't about calling.
No,
All it
this
says
is about, yeah,
recording. You just
we're
said recording.
saying
Taking it.
it's the teacher's responsibility to call about absences,
But that's not what
basically.
this policy
No,
says.
it's just-
It says here, well, you just said they should be calling home about absences.
Yeah, we send a robocall. It's referring, to me, it's referring to the robocall that's sent to all parents of absent students.
Yeah, this is them just doing that responsibility, it doesn't include them
Actually
calling
taking
everybody.
attendance, not calling for each
Right.
absence. There's no way, nobody would be able to.
Not each absent, I'm talking about when you have a kid missing a lot of days of school, right? Because I can tell you, most of my calls were in support of kids who were failing, in support of kids we were trying to get to pass.
Sure.
Very rarely did I ever call home and say, did you know your student was absent 3 days in this 9-day period?
Right,
Like-
but the policy that you're talking about, B, it just says that teachers shall
Right.
record
But if we're requiring them to be the ones at a school
to take
to be,
attendance.
to do that, to be aware of their attendance and call home when they've missed too many days.
It doesn't say that, it just
No,
says
but should
take
it say that
attendance.
if that's what we're doing at the school?
To be frank, I think the robocall is used as a way to alert parents. I don't think that we can place a definitive to teachers.
Okay, we come back to this under the truancy section, then, so that's fine.
It's a challenge to do that. I do think if the student is habitually truant, like all the time, I think it's incumbent upon the teacher using good professional judgment to make that call. Wouldn't you? If I had a student that was absent many days, I'd be calling about why they're not in school.
Well, I think it just, to me, that's that school to home connection. If my kid's out and my teacher or my kid's teacher doesn't notice or doesn't reach out, like, to me, are you paying attention? Do you know that my kid's not there? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of a,
No, it's a lot harder at high school than just that. I wanted to call every kid who had a problem's parents, yeah. Obviously I did, but 125, 130 kids a day. It's just, I'm just saying. And then under makeup for absences, says for unexcused absences, each principal shall establish site-specific policies that encourage both regular attendance. Is this kind of like a universal policy with us? Do we have?
It's in pupil progression. I think it's 1 day for every day absent.
And so this is something the principals will hold consistently. So when it says establish a site-specific policy, that led me to believe that we have like 45 different policies.
Pupil progression would be the universal policy for all district schools.
So is that,
1 day.
that wording is, we don't mean this then, that each principal will come up with their own?
I looked at it as more like they should advertise that with their teachers and review that with their teachers more so than develop a site-specific policy.
Because it seems subjective and arbitrary if every single principal is doing something different.
I can understand why you would think that, yeah.
But we have something in place that guides that.
Yes, pupil progression guides that.
All right. Do you think that wording should be changed? That says each establish site-specific policies?
when I read that, to me, it says that encourage both regular attendance and high academic achievement. Like I think how a school leader decides to encourage that, it might look different. Like maybe in one school it's pancakes with the principal, maybe in another it's bulletin board.
I think Ms. pointing that it broadens more after you get past that one little bit.
No, and I understand
It
that.
broadens out a little.
But is that the wording? Is that?
I mean, it's up to you guys. I don't really have.
Instead of policies, you could say strategies.
I mean, I think I feel better about the word strategies would
Strategies
be
instead of
probably.
policies.
Policy seems, and Ms. Gilhousen, you're right, they do all kinds of different things like
To encourage
pancake
attendance.
breakfast.
Yeah. So I want to encourage that.
I think maybe it was the word policy that had me.
Yeah.
Can I get consensus on strategies?
Sure.
Ms. Clark?
Everybody feel
Ms.
that?
Gilhousen?
That's fine.
Mr. Albert? Perfect. Anything else on this policy?
No?
Denise, did you get that too? Let's go to page 39, absence for religious instruction. 41 for holidays. 43, late arrival and early dismissal.
And just a question, not a problem. Page 43, we took out the sentence that says the parent of primary residential custody shall determine in writing the individual the student may be released in the care of unless otherwise stated in or by a court order. We struck that, and I know that at schools, when they pick them up, the directives are for each child. Why did we strike it?
I think that one of the things that happens, quite frankly, is parents will get into, there'll be conflicts between two parents, and the school is not the arbitrator of that. There's a court order that would tell us what we, and we don't want to be, nor do we want to be involved in that. If in fact the parent gives permission for the child to go home with another individual, that should be in writing and verified in order to make that happen. So
Okay.
I think this is a challenge for schools, because we deal with this, and JP can.
That's why I asked. This is a challenge.
testify to that. That's a challenge in the world today. Because they'll say, hey, I got a custody plan. My ex-wife and I have been to, and our custody plan says that, like we don't enforce your custody plan. Like if both parents have access to the child, then they have access to the child.
The parent or primary residential custody, this is why I ask, because I know this is a big deal at schools, shall determine in writing the individuals the student may be released to.
We do that through Synergy. There's contacts of who can have access to the child there.
So we don't need it ever in writing, so if they had a court order, it would be,
We follow.
this
the
parent's
law.
not allowed to, okay, so Synergy handles it,
Yes.
perfect.
45, immunization and health examination. I just have one thing on this. I had a parent who actually, recently, trying to get into schools and whatnot. For the state of Florida, we allow, religious and I think philosophical exemptions for immunizations. And I was just wondering if, for parental purposes, if we could add, I think the form is DH681, isn't that it? Is that it? The Department of Health form, I think it's 681. Like at the end, you should have your health examination and to be immunized against such diseases as follows. Can we put or present DH61? It's the health it's a religious exemption. But a lot of parents, I shouldn't say a lot, there's not a lot, but just recently, I've actually had a couple of phone calls in the last 3 years or almost 3 years I've been on the board, about this in particular. Wanting to know what form do they have to get. We had one who just moved recently out of state who didn't know that the state of Florida has this form and what is it, where do I go, what do I do, does Clay County Schools recognize it, not knowing that it's in state statute and stuff. So I was just wondering if we could, I'm pretty sure it's DH681.
The problem is you can't even get the form unless you go to the health department.
Correct.
Like, we can't put a,
But what I'm saying is it says
And would
you
that
have
be
to
a
put the
present,
name of the form.
Correct.
Percent of the
Present.
enrollment section, Tom.
you know what I mean?
It's,
What the
no, it's in the,
requirements
it's
for
in,
enrollment makes
the
sense.
provisions do not apply if they have an exemption.
So in 16, it says it there as well, but it doesn't say, it says, shall be temporarily excluded, okay, hold on, there, but it says, I think in one other policy, we talked about, or have an exemption, but it doesn't say what exemption, and it didn't say, the exact form.
Is
So I
that
just want,
procedural?
Maybe we should put it. in
Would that be
because the
procedural though,
forms could change.
Ms. Skipper?
I mean, it could, but I know other schools that are not public schools actually list this in their policy, where it says, or present. I mean, even if you don't want to put the form, which, I mean, I think we should, so that people are aware and know that it's 681.
The form would be an option, not required for the.
No, it's required.
So they'd have to go to Department of Health to get a form?
Yes, so you either get your you either give us your health certificate of all your immunizations, or you give us this form, which is your religious
It's a waiver.
exemption.
It's a waiver for the.
It's a waiver. So you have to have one or the other, is what I'm saying. But a lot of parents, like just recently, a parent moved from out of the state, was gonna give their form from out of state and couldn't because we didn't recognize it because we needed Florida's form. So it was a big thing. So what I'm saying is, if we put it here or present religious, however you wanna word it, but this is the actual form, DH681.
I think the exemption can be granted by the school officials, they don't require the.
Yeah, they do. They have to have
No,
the
they're
form.
required to
You have to have
the-
one or the other. You have to have either the health form, that, hey, I've had 75 vaccinations, or you have to have, hey, I don't want any vaccinations.
Well, my question, like.
But it has to be an actual form. It's a documentation.
Is that a
You have to have
policy
one or the
or
other.
So it's actually in another policy, 5112. I just found it, and it says.
She's got a
religious
searchable
exemption.
document.
Okay.
Right. But that's what I'm saying, but underneath here.
It's in 5112.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It says religious exemption. I just said that, but I couldn't remember which one it was. However, it doesn't say form and under immunization and health examination. What I'm saying is we either need to say, see this one, or actually put the form, because parents are actually, there's a small group of people that actually need this form and want to know about this. And shockingly, I've had a handful of people asked me about this over the last couple of years. So I'm just saying, as a board, whether we put Steve policy, whatever, so they can, I mean, but I just was trying to make it to where if I'm coming in, I don't want to go look at this policy after I've already read where it should be under immunization and health examination. I don't want to have to turn to this policy, then go to this statute, then go here and here. If we just put it here or DH 681, I now know I got to go to the health department to get in, and they do accept us in Clay County Schools because it is a.
What was the policy number that you said it was on?
5112, under initial entry for entrance requirement.
How about we ask Tom for his expertise? Where would you recommend putting it, Tom? 5112 or this one? Immunization and health exam.
This one, this policy.
Okay.
I guess I'm just hung up on the fact that the law allows the school board to exempt immunizations.
We can't.
It's not, it's through the health department.
That's a DH rule. That's a rule, that's all that is. It's not, it doesn't govern the school boards.
But you have to have it to get in the school. So if you don't have your immunizations, you have to have that form. It would be like your
So that's our
form for
policy.
immunizations.
Yeah.
That would be our
Well,
policy.
we certainly put it in.
Yeah, okay, that's, put it in if the board agrees.
The health department is who, the state of Florida is who actually exempts them, not us. But the form shows us that they're exempted.
So I think it
what
would
he's
be as
saying is-
simple as taking C, where it says initial entry on page 16. It says a child may be exempt from the required health examination and/or immunization upon written request of the parent or guardian of such child, stating objection to examination and/or immunization on religious grounds or for medical reasons certified by a competent medical authority. So if we took that paragraph, you could leave it here, I don't have a problem with it being here, but then just add it to the immunization and health examination policy.
From
No.
16?
Mm-hmm. That way it's in both.
Have it in both places.
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on, let me get to 16.
That would be very good for consistency,
Great. I don't have a 16.
because it makes sense if they look at it at one place and maybe
Oh
they
my
can't find
gosh.
it.
I'm missing pages.
You're missing page 16.
Because then, Ms. Skipper, to your point,
It's 16 but the first. That's weird. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, to your point though, it doesn't reference that you need that health department form.
So, do we wanna, so which paragraph B, or no, C?
So
for
who is it
nurses.
that requires that form from the health
Nurses.
department? Is it us or is it the state?
We do, but we have to
But if we
submit
change,
it
but here's
to,
my thing, if we change this policy, does that mean we're not requiring that form that a parent, because according to this policy, the parent can
you
just
have to have
say,
it to attend school.
So
by the state of Florida?
Correct.
what
Okay,
what
so then
Tom
we
is
would have to
saying,
require it as well. So I think then we need to be clear in the policy that they have to have it.
Right.
Because to me, a parent should be able to just say, we're not doing that. I don't think you should have to have the medical department sign off
So
on
I have
that,
a-
but.
I'm confused.
Well, and I looked at like other schools, like private schools and stuff, and it says you have to have all of this or this form, and it actually says the form. So, and I
But
looked it up. and
But my
it's-
question is, do they have to have the form? Because is that a school requirement, is that a district requirement, or is that a?
It's a state
It is a state requirement to fill out that
according to-
health department form.
So listen, what he's saying is, that's a Florida rule.
Right,
Tell me if I'm wrong, because I look at this law a lot.
that's what they're saying. It's
That's a
Florida.
Florida rule versus a legislative statute. So this would be
No, it
something.
is, it's a, you have to have it.
So you're
Either-
saying it was a rule, not a statute?
Ms. Hanson, it's a statute. So listen, if your kid wants to come to school and you don't want to vaccinate your kid, or you want to eliminate the vaccinations that you have for your kid, you have to either give me that form.
I understand that
You have
part.
to give me either the immunization form or that form to be able to attend our schools.
No, I
Period.
understand that, but
So-
I was trying to figure out what he was saying, the difference between what part of that was a rule and what part was statute.
It's statute. I'm almost 100% sure
It
it's
is.
statute. It is statute.
So
So-
then, I'm just trying to understand, because this is like out of my realm. Like, So you guys are saying you wanted to make it easier for parents to
To find the form.
understand their
Just put the form.
rights, to be able to find what they're
Yes, we
doing,
can put that in there, no problem.
and it won't break any rules or,
The
Correct.
state wants to give parents the opportunity to
oh, and I'm with that.
decline.
I'm just trying to understand what we're trying to
That's it,
do.
if they
Yeah.
want to, so
I wasn't sure
through religious
if who
exemption.
requires the form, and they're saying it's the state. So if the state requires it, then to
Okay.
me, it makes sense.
Yes.
If somebody's coming into our district and they want to know our rules about vaccinations, this is
Okay.
the policy they're going to look at.
That's exactly
So
what I'm
let's
saying.
put that information in this policy.
Correct.
They'll
Thanks
tell
for the
them to go to the
clarification.
health department.
Well, I mean, that's not in here, so then the question is, well, who do I get the, you know?
Right.
Because
Here-
this person is coming from out of state just recently, and they're like, where do I go for it?
Right.
Because it's different in their state.
Well, in
Yeah.
our, this
You know what I mean?
policy, all it says is that you need, it says, written request of the parent or guardian. That's all that it requires. It doesn't
Well,
say anything about a
You know,
state
let me
form.
just say this, that language has been in the school code for many, many years.
Okay,
And they may have a new statute about Department of Health that deals with it more specifically.
okay. So
Oh,
then,
so
let's
we
make
have
sure
school.
that we have that language. I like your idea about referencing. If we're concerned about the form number changing, maybe what we need to just say is the Department of Health official form
Okay.
for
Yeah,
religious
let's do
exemption.
that verbiage.
Yeah.
So
There's
which
some
paragraph?
statute language here that says 1003.22, that's a statute, that says, that a physician licensed under the provisions of, chapter 458, chapter 459 certifies in writing on a form approved and provided by the Department of Health. So they don't say the number, but they just say a form approved and provided, that the child should be permanently exempt from the required immunization. And this one says per medical reasons stated in writing. So it really just references a form provided by the Department of Health.
And that would be.
And that kind of
And that's good, because
Yeah.
makes it,
Change it.
yeah.
So can we add that to the immunization policy, that verbiage?
And then make sure that in our enrollment policy, we also add the language about the form from the Department of Health.
Mhm.
Okay. So let's make sure they understand what we're talking about. So on page 16, can we, what paragraph was it?
Oh, I just let it go, hold on.
Was it D?
No, it's C.
On C, okay, so C, under C on page 16, can we add the verbiage for the health department that we were just talking about?
So it should
Yes,
read,
okay.
let's clarify how it should read. A child may be exempt from the required health examination and/or immunization upon, we wouldn't require written request of the parent or guardian. It would be, a child may be exempt from that upon provision of the Department of Health form authorizing
Florida
religious
Department of Health,
exemption.
right?
Yeah. Florida Department of Health form, yeah.
Yeah, I think they have two forms, one for medical reasons and one for religious exemption.
Okay.
So do we have that, Neola?
We do.
Okay, so then can we take C and that verbiage and put it in our immunization policy? Okay, she's got it. She's looking at me like, I got this. I'm comprehending everything.
I'm learning a lot right now.
Well, it's not just immunization, it's the health examination, so.
That way, like you said, if the form does change.
About 47 to 75.
Okay, so 47, use of medications,
Through 75?
I have it on page 49.
49 to be self-administered.
I don't have a problem with this, but to me, it seemed like it's a change in practice, that children can carry with them FDA-approved headache medication, so they can keep that on their person. They just need a note from mom and dad.
I think there's actually recent statutes that talk about that.
I'm fine with it, that was something different that we've done. Yeah.
Also, on 40 or 50, do we do this emergency allergy treatment education training program?
Yes,
Okay, I wanted to know. All right, 50,
we do that for all medical conditions, diabetes.
okay. So 50 to 75. Does
I just have
anybody
one question.
On what?
Question.
What page?
It would be page 71, student progression, reporting student progress.
Okay.
the part we struck out said the superintendent, in conjunction with appropriate staff members, shall develop procedures for reporting student progress to parents. This is a real important thing with our teachers. It's not an administrative procedure. It doesn't have to be the exact words that is in this document, but I think we should have something here as part of their professional responsibility. I think we need to make some superintendent clarifications on how we're reporting student progress to parents.
So all of that information is contained within the pupil progression plan, and the challenge is, right, when you take a look at the overall process of doing this, is that, let's just take the code of conduct, was chopped up into 20 different policy. The pupil progression plan is also another document, as well as the AP manual. So that information is all there, that's why it was stricken, because that would be the latest and greatest information.
But now people who are looking for clarification, this is the thing, like sometimes a couple of sentences, now they have to come to this policy, wonder what we're talking about, have the foresight to go find the pupil progression plan. My understanding is that Synergy actually, teachers were showing up at a couple of pictures from teachers of how Synergy makes suggestions as to how they should report, when they should report the progress to parents, how should they do it. Synergy clarifies that at the beginning of each year, like one grade a week or whatever. This is actually really important, and we're saying it's in the progression plan. What does that mean to somebody who's trying to figure it out? Like we need to tell them they're going to have to go look somewhere else. This is actually something that teachers talk a lot about. What they're supposed to be doing, what's the right thing to do, what's not the right thing to do versus teacher autonomy. And I realize this is too big of a discussion for now. But I think we need to, take this from Neola that we need to develop procedures for reporting student progress to parents, and it should be somewhat consistent from school to school. There's nothing worse than, and I'm telling you, this happened to one of my grandkids, having 2 grades for a whole quarter. Okay, so I think that, and I'm not saying we do it now, I think this is like a whole special. We could do it now, but the actual figuring out, I've realized after talking with so many people, it's a lot more complicated, right? And I actually see both sides to what we should and shouldn't do. When are we going to handle that? Because we definitely need clarification on some kind of what's right for reporting, And you and I, people who spend time in the classroom as principals, understand that we are supposed to report progress on mastery of standards, right? And so when parents do not get the feedback they need, we can't run around screaming why parents aren't helping them, right? So it's complicated.
Right, so they're all intertwined. This policy, the next policy on grading, are all intertwined. I
Yeah.
try to report that out.
It's a lot
The
of
current system, of course, is an interim report and a report card at the end related to providing that information. And of course, if a student is deficient along the way, the teacher should report those deficiencies. For example, a student that doesn't do any work in class would certainly contact the parent to ensure that the parent knows to that. So there is a procedure in place for engaging parents for their students' progress.
I once had a principal, though, who on Friday would send a note, wasn't you, it's my mentor, but once had a principal who would send a note to teachers, you need to put a couple grades in, it's the end of the week. Like, back in the day, this was a much different thing than it is today, which resulted in about 20, the goal was, I think, somewhere between 20 and 25 grades to give a full picture of student learning. And I know now, and teachers are under duress, but I know now that's not the complete picture that many parents are receiving. And so, are you saying we can readdress it in a different place?
I think so. I think that you brought this issue up last year.
Yeah.
And as a result of last year, we actually started the year off with baseline guidelines for teachers.
I saw that.
You're right. Teachers weren't given the direction that one assignment per week at least would seem like a rational amount, as well as the amount of time between to grade that. As soon as you do that, the very opposite thing that you advocated for before, teacher autonomy, and putting more pressure on teachers becomes a thing. So there's a balancing act.
There is, but student achievement, I don't really care either way. But student achievement is number one. If your kid's not performing, they need to know it. And they do that by teachers making the attempt to do the right thing, by consistently reporting what a student needs and doesn't need. So I'm big on autonomy. I've talked to many teachers, right? But almost all of them agree that having some kind of standard across the board where parents have a kid in high school, a kid in junior high, a kid in elementary school would not hurt them. They're still grading it the way they want, still putting whatever assignments they want. We're not telling them that. What we're telling is we need to have some consistency of reporting mastery of standards.
Do you want to focus as to the number of assignments? Then?
Not so much. I think this is going to be another place in time, and I think it's because this one particular thing I've been talking with teachers about rolls into about 10 other things,
Okay.
and there's a lot of touchy subjects, and it does, believe it or not, there's some common ground is what I mean to say. And I think there's a lot of work that we can do to make sure that students and parents, when they're looking at their FAST testing, understand that's a report card. And how are we going about getting my kid into the green or out of the red to the yellow? So just keep in mind, I guess I'm asking the board at a time when we're not so busy, and maybe we could have some forums and talk to some parents and invite teachers and have our newsletter. I think this is something we're going to need a lot of buy-in and a lot of help figuring out what our direction should be about what's right and what's not. So maybe keep it in mind for later, because I know what I'm thinking in my head is just too big for now. So.
7,500.
Yeah, 35 to 100. I can't remember what I wrote on my agenda. And then 100 to 125, but I have some questions here. But I don't understand my notes, so give me 1 second.
Um, 101.
Yes, that's what I'm.
5511. I'm just going to suggest when we do the student code of conduct, one thing I liked when researching this, I always pick 10 different counties, was they put a little picture of a midsection, right? And the picture had the thigh, just like a little thing, right? And the picture had like not a tank top, but the 3-finger width, is that what we used to do? The picture actually was just right in your face. And I really just think, other than words, if we added that, because here we cross out repeated violations of this policy at high school. I think if we had the picture, it'd be easier for teachers to say, right? And then later on, we can talk about maybe when we get to the student code of conduct, how we go about handling that, I guess. But a picture would help verify, and easy to hang on a wall. It's like a little half a body, no head, no feet. It's like just the midsection. And it's just really easy. If we had a little picture on the wall, the dress code is this. Like if your bra's sticking out and you don't have 3 fingers, goodbye. If your short is too short, it's too short, you can look at the picture. It says mid-thigh. It's just a little, okay? Maybe we can do something like that, because it's just easy then for teachers and parents to go, oh my,
Visualize.
It's a visual. That is way too short. And a teacher's like, that is too short because of that. It's just a little picture. I can find a copy of it if you'd like, but.
So, I have a question. Do we need to define inappropriate areas of the body? Because some kids don't, or some teachers don't think that like the midsection is inappropriate.
This says right there in D, shirts must cover the shoulder and not expose undergarments in any manner or any part of the torso. I think that's pretty clear.
And the picture would cover that exact section. And I think, Ms. Skipper, that part maybe is like sometimes other inappropriate things come up. And you look at them and you know it's really inappropriate. Is that why that's left in there?
Yeah, an oh wow moment.
Yeah, that's what we used to call them. If you have that wow moment, it's not in there, just, it means something.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to know. Also, so I guess my question is when they are in violation of dress code, you send them to the front office.
Correct.
you write them up or you make them change, whatever. You call the parent. If they can't bring clothes, what do we do? You don't provide them anything to cover up or anything?
Some schools do, in fact, I did that back in the day.
I
I
remember
don't
you
know
got
if you were ever
over.
involved in that or not.
I was not.
Back in the day, we did have like orange jumpsuits
I had a
and
mother
things.
that was
I
not.
got into some interesting times with that whole issue, believe it or not. I think the challenge really is that, let me just say this as a definitive statement. Long before I was ever involved, dress code was an issue on people's radar. Long after I'm dead and nothing but ashes, there will be issues with dress code. I think it's in the matter of being as responsible, following the code of conduct related to that, realizing that you will never, ever, ever make people 100% satisfied. Just like when you look at the book issue, you talk about how some people say, well, Jesus, I wouldn't want my child reading that book. But it's there's a little bit of subjectivity that goes to it that's also enhanced by a person's background. I mean, I went to Catholic school wearing a uniform, so I'm
Even at schools with uniforms,
I get it.
it's a battle.
yeah.
Yeah, it is, but I'm just saying, like, I mean, there's a difference between, is that fingertip length, is that not, is that mid-thigh? I don't know,
I think
and
the
a
picture will
blatant,
help.
The
Way up
student
here.
rolls the dress up, and then, don't forget, you're also battling the parent on the other side of the issue, right? Arguing against the school
100%.
because
Yep.
of
Well,
enforcing the dress
that's why
code.
we have the beautiful policy.
The child rolls the dress up, it's inappropriate, parent comes up to the school, the dress is down fully, and that'll happen from the time they left the classroom to the time they got to the administrator. So it's really not as simple as that. I think that our dress code, while there are students that dress inappropriately, okay, for the most part, is as effective in today's society as it can be.
Well, I'm just saying, if you roll it up, then I say, well, you can't wear that if it's gonna ride up.
Well, I would
It's
just
down now, but
I would say our policy is great the way it's written, but like to your point, enforcement is
And it's
a challenge.
another issue that we've seen statewide is the issue of male versus female dress code, and ours talks specifically about universal dress code, which is very important in today's society. I don't know if you caught on to that.
correct.
It's kind of a universal dress code. It's not a male versus female thing.
And the dress code applies after school functions as well?
No.
Well, I recently was at a function, a very formal function, with Ms. Clark, and I'm asking, we have no dress code expectation after the bell rings?
I think it should be dress code. I'm aware of the incident that you were referring to last week.
So I'm asking, really,
Yes, but certain conditions need to be, if you're at a football game,
yeah,
you might have a different dress code than before, but clearly you shouldn't be out with clubbing attire, at a
academic function.
academic function, right? So there's a little bit of difference.
Is there any wording like about that? I mean, I saw something here, affect an appearance at school or school-sanctioned activities or events that are or may be disruptive.
What about ceremonies? What if we put like presentations or ceremonies? That way we're not putting the football.
Yeah, I realize I'm not talking about football, but
Right, that's what I'm saying.
there are, that's like a sporting event, right, versus
So the way
academic
that
event?
we thought about handling that would be to put that out to all principals
Let them.
relative to events that should be ceremonial in nature, right? You don't want a student going to a National Honor Society induction ceremony and they're dressed totally inappropriate.
So do you think the principals could take that responsibility before functions and say,
I think
Or
so.
sponsors, club sponsors.
close sponsor, you need to be in school dress?
Well, you would hope this is something the parents are teaching their children, but obviously
You would
that's
think, but,
Apparently not.
lacking.
so are you
So, yeah,
saying
we have to leave it
that
up
principals
to
can be responsible for that?
Yeah, I think so.
We don't need to write anything about it?
I would be careful about anything we write regarding after-school hours.
Yeah.
Number one, because enforcement of that is really difficult. But number two, I'm thinking specifically about like kids who do swim team, kids who do cross country, like those.
Well, sporting events, I think, are separate than what I was talking about, so you're right about that. Yeah.
In our 103, this match is identical to our recent one, correct, Rebecca? Okay.
So if I could, 109, I'd like to add language to that came up after.
Is this tobacco?
No, 103 was, he jumped to 109.
Okay.
Hold on.
Sorry, can I just say something about 103? Did anybody else want to go on 103? So for tobacco, it recently came to my attention that with vaping, right? The general student policy, with the tobacco, we actually scratched out the meat of the procedure that would help with vaping, right? And so it's come to my recent attention that not everybody understands our policy and the procedures that should occur. So for instance, if a kid is caught with a vape on campus, the procedures are different at different schools. I can tell you that for a fact. If a person is caught smoking a vape on campus, where I think that we could get into some serious trouble, Mr. Brodsky, is if when it comes to breaking the law, if we do not have Loctite procedures. So we have 3 different forces that protect our children. Is Green Cove, Orange Park, and the Clay County Sheriff's Office all on board with the exact same procedures that we are going to use, and not just with vaping. So vaping is one thing. Miss Skipper's child gets caught with just a vape she was holding for her daughter in a backpack. Her daughter's never smoked that vape, right? Are all 3 of our security forces, do they have the procedure? Because we are not following it consistently, and I know that.
We can certainly coordinate with our law enforcement partners to make sure that all of them are using the same procedures, and the procedures then will be under the administrative procedures section.
Do that later. So that's something that we can, I think really needs to be clarified, because when you start treating one person under a different set of rules and another person under a set of rules, that's where the problem comes, is when we don't have consistency.
So the way the court enforces that too is another piece of the pie.
Okay, so we'll work on it when we do the other part?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Is there anything you want to add, Mr. Robert?
No, actually, that's exactly what I wanted to talk about, but you already got it.
Okay.
Yes.
I had a note for procedure.
Can we go to 109?
What page are we, 109?
109, I'd like to add the sentence on
You have
there.
nothing to say about bicycles?
No,
Okay.
except be careful out there.
And wear a helmet.
So the use of motor vehicles, I'd like to add the statement in there that reads as follows: the board shall not be responsible for motor vehicles that are lost, stolen, or damaged. Motor vehicles are subject to search and seizure as outlined in policy 5771. I think the additional language would add protection to the board in regard to, particularly at high schools where students drive motor vehicles on campus.
I'm okay with that. Mr. Alvaro, are you okay with that? Ms. Hampton? Ms. Gillen? Ms. Clark?
Yes.
So once again, the statement would read, just so the magic of telling law happens, I gotta say it twice, that the board shall not be responsible for motor vehicles that are lost, stolen, or damaged. Motor vehicles are subject to search and seizure as outlined in policy 5771.
And this
Should it
is,
say district and not the board, or does it matter?
I think the legal entity is the board, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
and this is something I'm assuming you wrote with legal advice, so.
Where are we at? Oh, okay, so 125, or all of the 125, any? And then 125 to 150.
I appreciate the in-depth bullying policy, and I'm sure that's a long conversation. We know it has been a problem, always will be a problem, that we can have during procedures. Maybe hopefully we've talked about you putting that in the forefront, I think, last year, trying to figure out that if our bullying policy was actually the best it can be, and that's really important to me.
So 150 to 175.
And Yola, you do really well. This is really good policies.
Thank you.
When you can flip through 70 pages and. Page 161, just a question, not a problem. On 161, I know when I was a kid, I was a student athlete, so, and I have athletes in my family, my grandkids. I was just curious why we took out, athletes should also follow the athletic code of conduct.
It's not a formal athletic code of conduct in that sense. Instead, any procedures would be covered under the administrative.
I mean, is it a bad thing, though, to have an athletic code of conduct that sets expectations?
There's not a separate document called the athletic code.
Is it something we could, would the board be, I mean, it would be, I guess, you, I mean, not really, is it something we can look into? Because for college scholarships, the only reason I ask is, an athlete is a whole package. And if you were trying to go to college, your GPA is one thing, what you're involved in is one thing, but the entire package. So my granddaughter, who's a level 10 gymnast, they're not really caring she can do the same skills as everybody else. She's looking at the whole package. What I've learned by watching these college coaches come, not for my granddaughter, but for the older girls, is they watch things like how you treat your mother, how you treat your fellow athletes. There's a scoring they do. And I feel like that athletes can be held to that standard in sports. I really think that an athletic code of conduct is really, really important, to go beyond just the simplicities of attending school. I don't know what anybody thinks about that, but there's some really good, well-written athletic code of conducts that extend into that extracurricular time. But I did watch a special about a kid, #1 recruit in baseball in the world, who lost a scholarship because he didn't tell his mother thank you when she brought him a water bottle, and then he threw it on the ground after he drank it. So these are true stories. If you want to look them up, you can, about the scale they use. But I honestly think we could help develop, you know, set some kind of a code of conduct that helps kids understand what's going to be expected of them.
Just personal opinion, I prefer to leave that between the coach and the athlete, kind of at their discretion, since they would be the ones with the kids and, you know, the after school stuff. And
I don't know, when I coached, I never talked about it. I just talked about who could run the fastest quarter.
I think we grouped them all with a general statement.
Yeah, I think we should have the code of conduct, because athletes, people like that, they get found on life, they're role models, supposed to be role models. You are a bad example for the rest of the people you just walking the floors, somebody pick it up, and I think that's a good example.
It's a real example, the #1 recruit in the country, 5 years ago.
But I don't disagree with that. I know a lot of kids for whom athletics is what keeps them coming to school. And so for those kids who have struggles that we may not even know about, I have a hard time saying, you know, to me, their coach knows them better than we do. And I'd rather their coach be the one to come alongside them and say, this is what I want to see in your life. This is what I want to see out of you. Because you just...
Well, you're right about that. As a high school track coach, though, I would have loved to have had a basic athletic code of conduct. Did I understand so-and-so didn't show up last night because her dad beat her? Yes. We have conversation about her bad attitude affecting the team, but what I'm talking about is it's everywhere. It's in every college. It's in a lot of high schools. I mean, it's pretty much everywhere. It's just basic athletic code of conduct. And we do treat our athletes differently. Like, you have to have a grade expectation. You have to have a behavior expectation. So it's what I'm asking for is nothing above and beyond what we already do.
Oh, okay.
But in an essence, it's not micromanaging a coach.
A leadership tool.
It's a leadership tool.
Yeah, it makes them better, makes them better. I think they do make it better.
So we have to laws.
Just a general.
Yeah.
Just a general
Later on.
outline of
Yeah.
expectations regarding student athletes.
Yeah.
We still have, they still have their GPA, right?
Yes.
2.0.
That's,
2.0.
yeah.
Really? Probably 2.5. 2.0?
The state's is, luckily our athletes have an average 3.5.
But I will point out to you, there are those kids who a 2.0 is a major success for. And they are rock stars
They're
on
only
the
getting
athletic
2.0
field.
because
so-
they want to play. That's their motivation.
Exactly, like, I don't feel like it's fair to cheapen somebody else's success just because it's not.
That's not to change it, I was just making sure I heard it correctly. All right, 175. I just had a question on that. Did we let our, did we consult our performance, our, performing arts individuals and directors to read this? Their report? Okay. That's what I was just curious because this is mainly about productions and just like we asked teachers about certain policies, I wanted to see if we Google.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to think of his name for like 10 minutes every year.
Mr. Google is in every fiber of these things.
Well, that's why I wanted to make sure that like he was good with this and he didn't have any objections or, you know what I mean? So anyways, that was just my theory on that. 75 to 200.
I have just a question about 181.
I have one after you.
Is that on there?
Mine's after yours.
Oh, it's after?
Yeah.
I just wanted to know, when it came to search and seizures, was this policy developed alongside of like CCSO? Are we on the same sheet of music with them?
It should be. This is basically what the statute says, approved by Neola and your attorney. So
But I think the education statute might be different than law statute, like enforcement, no? Are they the same is what I'm asking? Is this, Mr.
They would be the
Is this yet? Yes. So we're good on this, matching up on all aspects?
Let's go on.
Mine was on page 188, under reproductive health and disease education. I know our past policy was very clear that it was an abstinence-based program. I'd just like to make sure we maintain that language.
Where are you at? Oh, E.
E, reproductive health and disease education.
Yes.
And I know we also had language about, I don't know what exactly, I should have the policy pulled up, but emphasizing the importance of family-based reproductive education, as far as it being abstinent-based, but also looking towards marriage. So marriage and family. So I don't know what that language would look like. I don't know if maybe we could
That's on our
reference
original policy.
our previous, sex education policy.
So can we just implement our language for the sex education
yeah, we can
here
research that.
in E? Are you guys good with that for original?
Yes.
I
and-
liked our original sex education policy, so if you guys are comfortable putting that
No,
in here.
she's right about that. It was a very good, wholesome wording. In addition, since we are talking about this, we went to training last year. There is a program that would support the part of the policy that Ms. Gilhousen was talking about. We all showed interest in it, so could we keep it written down or in the back of our
Well,
minds?
from my understanding, because I remember when we did allocations one year, we ended up moving the sex education portion into the science class instruction. Is that correct? Are we still doing that? Is it part of science class or is it a separate
I don't
piece?
think we have any.
I believe it's in
It's
science.
a certain science class.
Okay.
It's not a separate program.
It used to be,
Used
and
to
then we
be.
brought it back into the classroom.
Yeah, that was
And
several
it's-
years ago.
So it's not,
curriculum we could implement if we wanted to
if we wanted to,
within
but
science.
my point was, I don't think we need to change any of that. I like that it's just part of our curriculum. I don't think we need anything separate.
I don't think it's
but
anywhere right now, to be honest. It
it's in-
used to be.
I think it's
Very
meant-
specifically in that, those people that would come in and teach it during science class, and that's no longer available to them.
I think what, if I remember right from being on the board years ago, when we used to have nurses and folks that came in and did the
Long time
instruction.
ago, yeah.
And then we switched to, it's covered, I believe, in 4th and 5th grade standards, right? Through the Florida Standards of Education, like that's covered in science class.
Right.
And then the same thing, I think, or in there, a portion of it in middle school as well.
Yes.
And then again in biology in 9th grade, it's covered.
Well,
I don't think we,
I don't think it's exactly like that anymore. That would be a point we need to get some clarification on, because I remember when I taught 6th grade science, I had to tear out the pages that showed the female reproductive system and the male reproductive system, and I was teaching 3 years ago. So I think we really need to get clarification on this and figure out what the board directive might be.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing it up. I completely miss it, and it's very important.
And I think that's the 6th grade that the letter goes home, and there's, it's only in 6th grade, and it's because it's a state standard.
I don't know, we tore them all out, and it was just
But I think
picture,
that's
a cartoon of a picture of a female.
If you want to follow the current.
I had to tear them all out for 2 years, so I know we tore them out.
I didn't,
If you want to follow the current
the
policy.
current policy and practice, I think, is, yeah, what we should be doing.
We can do that.
Ms. Gibber, could you write this down maybe for some time when we're not busy, that we have this discussion about?
But as of right now, we want to implement our old stuff
Yeah.
within this policy. So, we got that, okay. All right, any more to 200?
Goodness.
And then 200 for the day, okay.
I just had one question. It seemed odd to me that we had a policy on safety patrol. Have we always had a policy on that?
No, Neola has an abundance of policies, and so that was just one of
I kind of liked it, though.
their policies.
Personally, I've seen safety patrol work really well, and I've seen it really be a hindrance. So I don't know that necessarily I feel like we need a policy. I think kind of school-based leadership can make that decision if it's a program they feel like they should have or not. But that's just my.
Could I ask Neola the legalities of why you would have created a safety patrol policy?
At some point, someone wanted to have it. It's within the powers of the school board to set it up, and this, if they're going to have it, this would be a guideline for why and the standards.
So we
for it.
need a policy in order for a
It's not
school to have
required.
it?
It's not required.
Maybe they were allowing younger kids to do it, and they were like, no, you need to have older. Maybe they wanted to set the standard that they have to have maturity, or,
Well, this is just one that, yeah, I don't think we need, but that's whatever the board feels.
Or would like to get rid of that. You all in favor? Get it?
I would be in favor of deleting that section.
Leaving it.
Yeah, deleting it. We do a great job with school safety on its own at the school level. I don't think we need like the big oversight piece.
to take out safety patrol.
I would be okay with Ms. Gilhousen's suggestion.
Mr.
Yes.
Alvera. Mr. Alvera, would you like to keep it? Take it? Okay. Ms. Clark?
Remove it.
So we're gonna remove safety patrol.
What page number was that?
213?
Whoa, way back here.
I mean, it just seemed odd to me, we don't like outline honor society or any of the other things that schools do. I don't feel like we need that one.
It might be because they were doing kind of risky things like crossing students or something. but
Yeah.
We don't
hopefully
need
they
it.
would not be doing that.
We
But this
definitely don't.
doesn't keep them from doing it if you read it the way it's written.
Alrighty, any other questions, comments, concerns from the board for this section?
Well, overall, for me, the bullying section is always a problem. I think we put out there what we expect out of the student, but I wish that we could be consistent with how the teachers respond, and there's just not one.
I would like that
Anyway,
to
it's
be.
just,
I think it's
doesn't
something we
have
should
to
look
work.
at, Ms. Clark, as well. I think we need to look at it.
yeah.
When you listen to kids, you know, you hear about
When
kids
you hear the
online.
stories
And I think we do the best we can, but I don't think we're doing the best we can. I think there's more we can
Procedurally
do.
or policy?
procedures.
The procedural part, I think there's more we can do.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add? Alright, do you guys need anything from us?
No? We got a lot of comments and input. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the hard work.
We'll be back next month with the 2000s and the 9000s, I think.
Woo, can't wait.
Program and community relations.
Okay, awesome, thank you so much. Y'all have a Safe trip home.
And I want to thank the district for reading every word of that exciting document and helping get it prepared for us.
And before we give it over to Mr. Broski, I wanted to ask any board members who are going to do board business, do any of you have anything you want to discuss, anything you want to bring up, anything you want to talk about?
Madam Chair, would you mind if we took a quick recess?
Sure, yeah, we can. Let's take a 5-minute recess.
Thank heavens. Ms. Gilhousen, I'm so glad I can hear you better today.